Welcome to Hope for Recovery, a 12-step workshop, sponsored by the Saturday Serenity Meeting of Eating Disorders Anonymous, which is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they might solve their common problems and help others to recover from their eating disorders. Information about EDA can be found at 4eda.org, the number 4eda.org. Handouts for all sessions of this workshop can be found at edahopeforrecovery.com. And now, here's today's workshop.
Welcome, everyone, to week 13 of our 14-week Hope for Recovery workshop. Today, we're covering step 9, which is about making amends. We have some interesting examples of amends to share with you. If you're not on step 9, we believe you'll find today's workshop very helpful for when you reach this step. My name is Regina. I live in San Diego, California, and I am the chairperson of the Hope for Recovery Workshop Committee. Please join me for a moment of silence. This is a reminder to turn your camera off if you are moving about or doing anything that would possibly be distracting. This workshop is being recorded to create an audio version, so if you choose to share, your voice may be heard on the recording. You know, someone spoke with me this week about the concept of EDA discouraging rigidity around food. And I thought it might be worthwhile to talk to the whole workshop about that, because what does that mean? Don't be rigid. And, you know, I really can't tell you what that means for you. I can speak to what it means for me and what I've learned in my years here in EDA. And to me, not being rigid around food means that I would never say, I'll never eat that again in my lifetime. I might not want it today, but to me to say I'm never going to eat it. Now, there might be an exception, I guess, if you're a vegan and you're never going to eat an animal again. But that said, that would be being rigid. And what I think happens to a lot of people new in EDA, they hear the message that we really discourage rigidity, and they don't hear the piece about EDA endorses sound nutrition and EDA endorses balance, and they have a lot of fun eating all the foods they were restricting for many years. And I just want to normalize that if that's something that you've been doing. A lot of us go through that, and then we talk to our sponsors and we're reminded that EDA endorses sound nutrition and balance, and things can level out that way to a place where you're feeling balance. So I don't know if that was useful or not, but I have said it. And if there are no other questions, I'm going to introduce our leader today, Kathy G.
Hello, my name is Kathy. I am living in Colorado, and I am fully recovered from my eating disorder. Let's begin with reading the long version of Step 9 from page 484 in Appendix A of the EDA Big Book. Step 9, made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. After counsel with a sponsor, an EDA member, or other 12-step group member who has worked the 12 steps, we went to the people we had injured and admitted our fault and regret. Our statements were simple, sincere, and without blame. We set right the wrongs as best we could and expected nothing in return. Accountability set us free. To take step 9, use the list of persons you have harmed and how you harmed them, which you made as part of step 8. The EDA Big Book has lots of great information on step 9, and we will now read much of it together. Let's open our books to page 182. I will call on the volunteers. Please read 2 paragraphs. And we'll begin with Laura W. please begin with the paragraph on page 182, which starts with the words, "We must be willing."
Hi, I'm Laura. I'm recovering from an eating disorder. We must be willing to go to any length to set right the wrongs we ourselves committed in thought, word, written or spoken, and deed. We should review our plan with someone who has perspective. It is altogether too easy to overlook needed action or blow things out of proportion. In cases where we behaved badly towards someone who criminally abused us, we advise talking with a trusted counselor about whether to inform proper authorities of the crimes and then turning our attention to helping others who have been hurt as we were, rather than by making amends directly to the perpetrator. Our goal is restitution for our own errors, but making amends to people who treated us criminally could be seen as justifying or condoning the crime. To repeat, we prioritize the safety of others, those who might be in danger from the same individual, over our personal need to set right our wrongs directly with the perpetrator. In such cases, we help others instead. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Claire, will you please begin with the paragraph on 183, which starts with the words, "We should also."
Yes, I'm Claire and I'm in recovery from an eating disorder. We should also review our plans for restitution to those who might be unduly affected, especially where financial amends are indicated. We have no right to deprive our family of our time and money without their consent. We must make it clear, however, that setting right our wrongs is essential to our recovery. We must put a plan into action that enables us to make full restitution, however slowly. We must not take any kind of arrogant attitude when we approach people we have hurt. We do not discuss our new perspective, our success so far, or anything that might unduly irk or further injure anyone else. We briefly explain what we are trying to do and why, no matter how vulnerable this may make us feel. We state what we did and we apologize. We make no mention whatsoever of anything the other person said or did. We state what we would like to do to repair damages we caused. Although we cannot expect to get it, we ask forgiveness from the person we harmed. We ask if there is anything else that we can do to make amends and listen carefully to the response. We try to agree with any terms suggested, unless others must first be consulted. We thank the person for taking time to talk with us, and we take our leave.
Thank you, Claire. Eileen in Philadelphia, please begin with the paragraph on page 184, which starts with the words, "We can have."
Hello, my name is Eileen and I'm in recovery from an eating disorder. We can have no expectation of the other people involved, although usually the results are heartwarming and restorative of our trust in others. This may not always be the case. Our family members and spouses may not want us to approach other people with ideas about financial restitution until we have first made restitution to those at home. Some people to whom we wish to apologize may not accept our apologies or our amends. Others may not forgive us. It does not matter so long as we have made every effort to do our part. We can have no expectation about how we ourselves will respond to the act of making amends. We are likely to feel vulnerable and exposed and can expect to experience rejection, remorse, and pain. We must not, however, shirk from our job now. We need to demonstrate to ourselves and to the world the sincerity of our stance. With step 9, we reestablish integrity and build a foundation for trust. Nothing does this so well as the humble admission of errors and follow through on commitments to right the wrongs.
Thank you, Eileen. Natalie, will you please begin with the short paragraph at the bottom of page 184, which starts with the words, "Once we have," and also read the 9th step promises on page 185.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Natalie. I have an eating disorder. Once we have apologized and started making amends, to those who are within our reach, we will indeed begin to experience the 9-step promises. The 9-step promises. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down we have fallen, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will see that our service to God, our higher power, the greater good, has done for us what seemed humanly impossible. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Thank you, Natalie. Gail, I'm going to ask that you read 3 paragraphs. Please begin with the paragraph on page 185, which begins with the words, "It may be important."
Thank you. Hi, my name is Gail. I'm in recovery from an eating disorder. It may be important to point out that the 9th step promises usually start to come to pass after we are halfway through our 9th step amends. Due to the toll of guilt and shame, some people may not experience significant relief until they have completed all possible amends. The good news is that the hard work of establishing our new foundation is mostly complete. Now we must build upon it, for if we don't, we will be wasting both an opportunity and the effort we have put in so far. The benefits and all of the promises come from continuous reliance on the foundation we have put in place. Steps 1 through 9 helped us deconstruct our old ideas that did not work, outline new ones that do, and establish a foundation of trust and integrity. Steps 10 through 12 enable us to build the sort of life we really wanted and needed all along. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. While we have our books open, let's turn to page 232 and take a look at 2 additional paragraphs. These are found in chapter 7, which is titled Working with Others. Here we find instructions for a sponsor who is helping a sponsee with steps 8 and 9. Volunteers, after you read, you can share for 1 to 2 minutes or feel free to pass. Michelle, will you please read the last paragraph on page 232, which begins, "At the next meeting"? And that's Michelle S.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm recovering from an eating disorder. Meeting. At the next meeting, read the step 8 homework together. We do not discuss their entire 8-step list at this point, only the amends they can do now. At this point in time, we discuss the format of amends and make sure there are grounds for specific action. Sponsees sometimes think they owe amends in cases where non-action would serve the best interests of all concerned.
Thank you, Michelle. Melissa, will you please read from page 233, the last paragraph, which also begins, "At the next meeting"?
Sure. My name's Melissa. I'm in recovery, living in California. At the next meeting, review your sponsee's pre-written amends, making sure they are appropriate, sincere, and don't describe what the other person did, no matter what that may have been. Read up to step 9 in chapter 6 together, emphasizing how to schedule the amends appointments at times that are convenient for the other people involved. Remind sponsees that amends to those closest to us, such as spouses, partners, children, and parents, involve much more than a simple apology and a commitment to right the wrongs. We need to be accountable to people who have seen us at our worst, ensuring we do everything in our newfound power to protect them from further harm from our selfishness and unreasonable expectations. We are sure to make mistakes as we go along. We are only human. Our perspective will no doubt become clouded whenever we are angry and afraid. Therefore, we firmly resolve to make living amends, which means taking a kindly and helpful attitude toward those around us, no matter what they do. We commit to continue taking personal inventory, setting right new wrongs as they occur. We do step 10. And we commit to rely on God, a higher power, or a higher purpose for our strength, rather than leaning too heavily on those around us, which is step 11. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. We are very grateful that we have been given written descriptions of ninth step experiences in the form of letters that we'll share now. Workshop committee members will read these for us. Sandy, will you please read our first amends letter?
Once upon a time, back in 1984, I made my first amends ever. I admitted I had taken something I did not pay for from our local grocery store. I moved away from the store, but still, 12 years after I'd taken the item, I felt guilty about it. I was getting ready to go to the store to make amends, but stopped to call a program friend in first. I told her how scared I was. They were making examples of shoplifters at the time, and I worried I might go to jail. She asked if I wanted her to come with me. I said I really needed to do this by myself. She said, "Well, I meant, do you want me to be there when you come out?" I gratefully said yes. The meeting with the manager was a godsend. To my surprise, he was kind and understanding. When I handed the manager the small amount of money I owed, he closed his hands over mine and smiled down at me. It was one of the few times in my life I felt I have seen the eyes of my higher power in someone else's eyes. I said, "God bless you" to him, and he said the same to me, wishing me a good day. It was finally over. This thing that had caused me such guilt and anguish was done. When I came out of the store, I fell into the arms of my friend and sobbed. The relief was so great. I'm grateful for the tools this program gives me to make things right in my life. And I'm especially grateful for the people in the program reassuring me I don't have to do this alone.
Thank you, Sandy. Bev, will you please read our next amends letter?
I owed my daughter an amends for using her as if she were my mom and not being a supportive parent myself. But by the time I got into recovery, my kids were in their 20s. My daughter and I had not been communicating for many years because by that time she was suffering with her own disease and did not want to meet with me. So my amends to my daughter was that I sponsored young women close to my daughter's age. I learned to be present and supportive of them and to practice unconditional love. I was there for them, but not controlling. I kept the focus on step work and stayed out of stories and trivia. I taught them to make recovery friends so they could build a strong foundation for life. The best was when they finished working the steps and got their own sponsees. I felt like the proud parent I always wanted to be. My self-esteem grew. Today, my daughter is my daughter. We spend quality time together, not quantity. And best of all, she respects me, and that feels great.
Thank you, Bev. Erin, will you please read the next amends letter?
I had just met with my sponsor to go over the amends letter I wrote to my mom. I had to stop by my mom's house on the way home. So I thought if it felt appropriate, I would make my amends in person. I sat with my mom. I didn't even need to use the letter. And I made my amends for discounting her efforts in the past to cook dinners for me and keep up with each latest diet. She would make dinner and I would say, "Mom, I can't eat this. I'm on such and such a diet." I also admitted to ransacking her personal snack drawer. Lastly, I apologized for putting her through worry when I went into her bathroom after I ate and tried covering up my purging with running the water. I told her that she didn't deserve to be treated like that, and I asked her if I left anything out, followed by asking what I could do to right my wrongs. She told me for the first time that she had also suffered with an eating disorder when she was younger. She had been a bulimic and had quit when she got sober by working the Alcoholics Anonymous 12 steps. She also told me that she was proud of me and to keep doing what I was doing in the program. It was a special moment learning that my mom had also been a bulimic and had gotten through it. I felt connected to her on a different level and accepted by her even more as she understood my struggle.
Thank you, Erin. Melissa, will you please read the next amends letter?
I made amends to a previous sponsee for abandoning my role to her as her sponsor and repeatedly tending to an unhealthy relationship I was in instead of helping her. This included ignoring phone calls, not making it a priority to meet with her, being very irritable, and rushing her off the phone when we spoke. I made face-to-face amends with her, admitting how and where I had been wrong. While admitting I could not take back what I had done, I wanted to offer my time and support if she wanted it. Although she was being sponsored by somebody else at this time, we agreed to meet for coffee regularly. We did this once a month for 6 months and created a bond that would not have been possible without God's grace and guidance.
Thank you, Melissa. Donna, will you please read our next amends letter?
After I completed my step 9 several months ago, I did not immediately move on to step 10. This puzzled me. What was the holdup? As the weeks passed, I finally admitted to myself that probably the most important amends had not yet been done. My ex-husband. Fear had kept me from being honest about its necessity, and bitterness. I had a lot of work to do on forgiveness, which I did do. I don't know why, but one magic morning, I finally just flat picked up the phone and practically read the script out of the EDA Big Book, page 183. He was dumbfounded and said nothing for many long seconds. Then he ended up apologizing to me. This one phone call opened up doors of communication that had been firmly closed. His wonderful response was entirely unexpected, but far from the most important effect. The legacy to our 2 children is forever improved because of this one admission of guilt. My kids now know their parents are finally on a cordial and connected trajectory. I am so grateful to EDA and all of you, for without your courage and honesty, this never would have happened. Never.
Thank you, Donna. Regina, will you please read our next amends letter?
When I did my 9th step and started making amends to those I had harmed, I was quite frankly a hot mess. But I was willing and jumped in, one person at a time. I made all my amends, saving the most difficult one for last. I had stolen a large sum of money, $700, from a woman I worked for. I worked as her nanny and didn't make much money, so returning that amount of money was not going to be easy financially or emotionally. I managed to pull together the money and went to talk to her. I was literally sick to my stomach. But I really needed to clean up my side of the street and let whatever happened, happen. So I said to her something along the lines of, I've joined a 12-step program and I need to make amends to people I have hurt. In the years that I have worked for you, taking care of the kids, I have also done grocery shopping for your family. While grocery shopping for you, I often purchased food for myself with your credit card. I tried to come up with how much money it actually was. The best estimate I can come up with is about $700. I'm so sorry for having done this, and here is $700 in cash to repay you. And then I was quiet and let her say all she needed to. Well, she had a lot to say. Understandably, she was angry and hurt. She said I had violated her trust in me. How could I do that to the family? And on and on. I just let her talk. I wanted to throw up, but I just kept listening. When she was done, I asked her if there was anything else I could do to make things right between us. She didn't say how I could do that. I told her she should let me know if she ever thought of any way I could make things right. And then I left her house and went home. All the while I was talking to her and listening to her, I maintained my composure, I think. As soon as I stepped out of her home, I burst into tears. I truly felt horrible. I went home and talked to my sponsor and worked through some of my feelings. I did what I needed to do for my recovery. A little update. Although my relationship with my former employer has definitely changed, we have remained at least cordial over the years. In fact, she just texted me today and asked if I would stay at her house and take care of their dogs over the holiday weekend. Who could imagine any of this? Certainly not me.
Thank you, Regina. Elizabeth, will you please read our final amends letter?
Looking at the list of people I had harmed, I wanted to make amends to all of them, but I had made amends in other 12-step programs, and my sponsor encouraged me to evaluate if additional amends were needed. Together, we determined that in many cases they were not, and she helped me to sanely make amends to all those where amends were needed. But there was one person to whom I'd made amends many times, and for very specific harms done. It was my husband. This time, with advice from my sponsor, I immersed myself in the idea of living amends instead. For someone like me, an extrovert who loves words, the idea of simply living my newfound freedom and sanity in every aspect of my relationship with my husband sounded difficult. It was. Truthfully, the first few times I caught myself being tempted to react angrily and didn't, I wondered if anyone would ever notice, especially my quiet, introverted husband. A couple weeks ago, we were talking and I worked up the courage to ask him if he'd noticed any difference in me over the past few months. I mean, I added, not just about how I eat and take care of myself, but how I am with you. And he said simply, yes, you seem more calm. I'm less worried about hurting your feelings. It makes life easier. Really? Was all I could reply as tears sprang to my eyes. Because for me, and the man I love most in my life, who has lived through all the ups and downs of my eating disorder and the devastation it has caused, this is enough. It's working.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And this brings us to our homework. Number one, with a sponsor or another experienced 12-step group member, discuss what amends would look like for the 5 to 10 people or institutions on your list. This week, select at least one of these and make the amends. A question often arises regarding making amends to people who have died. If you have someone in that category, you may wish to write an amends letter and share it with someone you feel safe with. Number two, pick one story to read from the EDA Big Book, Personal Stories section, Part 3, They Lost Nearly All. Number three, Call at least one person from this workshop or the EDA fellowship between now and the next session to share with each other. Wrap up. In steps 8 and 9, we are working toward having the best possible relationship with others. Amends can be difficult as they are not always well received. Courage and support are needed to be successful. We will wrap up with one member's reflection on steps 8 and 9. Working on steps 8 and 9 with a sponsor has become one of the most profound and transformational experiences in my life. I no longer have to avoid anyone. Facing the fear and coming through it to make direct amends where it was called for increased my compassion and love for myself and others. Relationships that were dear to me were restored. Praying for willingness and clarity in step 8 allowed me to make amends to people to whom I could never have imagined making amends otherwise. As some of the people have died, I am at peace with them and myself. For the most part, the people who received the amends were gracious and truly thankful. I felt as though I gave something to them in the process. I now have the experience, strength, and hope to confidently sponsor others in doing these steps wisely and thoroughly. I would now like to turn the workshop over to Regina, our workshop chair.
Thank you, Kathy. Just FYI, I believe Kathy tells her EDA story in bonus session 2. Just saying, if you'd like to hear it. Okay, so someone has sent me a message that the letters we read were not amends letters, they were descriptions of the amends experiences from people who made them. That's correct. So, see, language is important. Okay, thank you for that comment. So, could you please raise your digital hand if you wish to speak? You can also type a question or comment in the chat, and we will read it without identifying you. I hope that every single person here will share a milestone, a comment, or have a question, or all three. Laura, let's begin with you.
Hi, thank you, Regina. Thank you, everyone, for the workshop. I love those letters, touched me so, or synopsis of your amends. But I really wanted to share, I wasn't able to be here last week. And 2 weeks ago, I had a situation come up at work. And this workshop and Regina, everything I've been learning really helped me deal with the situation and actually learn some things about myself and my recovery. And part of it was that there were some triggering things in me from my past, from things with my mother and my ex that were being pushed at work. And I was terrified of some things, dealing with it, but it's come to pass, faced it all, and I'm still here and actually stronger because of it. And believe my recovery is going to be stronger. So I will never be able to say thank you enough. So that's my milestone. Thank you.
Thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you.
Someone is asking, where is Kathy's share? It's one of the YouTube videos. You just search for EDA, Hope for Recovery Workshop. There's all our weeks. Many of them are up there, more are coming, and there are at the moment 2 bonus sessions, and bonus session 2 has Kathy's share. Go ahead, Scarlett.
So I just want to make sure I understand correctly. When we're apologizing, we're supposed to be apologizing in a way that's not like explaining why we did what we did, just stating what we did and how and why it was wrong. Like not, because if there's reasons for what we did that was wrong, would it be a bad idea to like explain why we did what we did?
I don't think there's a black and white answer for that. You don't want to like justify it. And you don't want to take the focus off the fact that they were harmed. The purpose of it is to try to heal the relationship, amend it. And so we want to say things that will be maximally healing, and to say, I did this to you because, because I'm selfish and self-centered, and I didn't know. And now I'm really trying to change, is one thing. But if you were saying, I did this to you because you did this horrible thing to me, that would not be cool.
Okay, but like, trying to give an example, like I recognize that I did this to you, and I did it because I was ill, but that still makes it wrong, and I would like to make it right.
And I really regret it. But Scarlett, please talk to an experienced EDA member about each individual amend before you make it, because it will really prevent you. We can easily make things worse with our choice of words. So call me, call anybody here who puts their name in the chat. Would love to support you in making amends. Did I answer your question?
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Sandra.
Hi, everybody. Sandra working on recovery here. So I have a milestone from Thanksgiving, and I couldn't share last week because I was traveling. So here we go. I don't normally eat desserts. And at Thanksgiving, after a lovely balanced meal, I come back to my place and there's a dessert made by my great nephew. And I didn't make a fuss. I sat down, I ate it, I enjoyed it. And lo and behold, did not have cravings afterwards. I didn't wake up in the middle of the night to go raid the kitchen. It just was what it was. And I was grateful to be able to celebrate with my family. And I'll pass.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. It sounds like a milestone to me. Gail, I see your hand. I'm going to jump to the chat for a minute. Can you speak briefly on making amends to oneself or one's body? Interesting question. And I'm sure that an experienced EDA member would have thoughts on this. I'll just share mine. To me, working the EDA program is like the best amends I can make to myself and my body. And I personally don't worry about much beyond that. Of course, there's all kinds of wonderful self-care things like vacations and retreats and massages, but for me, it's really about stopping. So I used to hit myself. Actually, it could still, if I like make a huge mistake and I'm super embarrassed, I try not to hit myself. And I also try not to say mean things. So that's my little bit on that. Thank you for the question. Gail, please go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Gail. I'm in recovery from Williamsburg, Virginia. I just want to say real quickly, I wanted to share a milestone, but hearing what you just said, Regina, working the steps is the best amends I can make to myself. I love that. And I agree with that. And I'm so glad that question came up. And here's my milestone. Because of this workshop and because of creating a solid now 10th step inventory, I've learned some things about myself and some trends because I have some significant data now to go by. And one of the many things I can share, I'll share about this sleep. I added taking note of how much sleep I got every night to keep track of like HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and if it's related. And what I found is that my magic number seems to be like 7 or 7.5 hours of sleep is good enough. And I'm pretty good at getting that. And when I don't get it, or when I get too much, it makes a difference. So I'm really grateful for that information and all the other things I'm finding out about myself because of this workshop. And because my eating disorder kind of robbed me of knowing who I am. And I'm starting to get to know that person. So that's my milestone I wanted to share. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Gail, and congratulations on your milestone. I wanted to mention that in most EDA meetings, when people share milestones, the leader responds, "Congratulations on your milestone." Because this is a workshop, not a meeting, I take the liberty sometimes to riff a little bit, but that wouldn't be what you would expect to be the norm in, I'm a bad role model. That's the point. Okay, Melissa.
Good morning. I'm Melissa in California. So grateful to be living in recovery. The amends I'm feeling called to work on is 8 years in the making. So, you know, the awareness and the willingness and the courage come slowly sometimes. And sometimes I think that's how God works. You're reading in your little green book at a step meeting, and all of a sudden you think about a person like, I really need to handle that. And I haven't been willing to handle it until now because I feel courageous, brave, honest, and wanting to live a life of integrity. So now I want to go and handle something from 8 years ago. And I think I let it slide all this time because I thought, nah, she had a part to play too. So, you know, I just kind of let it go. But I want to clean my side. I just want to, not because I'm trying to win the Mother Teresa Award, but I want to be a good person. And I want to like feel like I've looked through my lens of history and going, all those incidences that I have shame about. Did I do the best I could knowing what I know now? Did I do something better that I can do? So, and I want to speak to accountability partners or a sponsor or a wise friend. This is why it's great to have somebody to bounce it off with and know that I kind of have a deadline. I'm going to be working with somebody to keep me on task. Otherwise, I will forget it, like I don't pay taxes. I don't want to pay taxes. It's one of those things. I do pay taxes, but my point is it's not fun. So I want to do it. So I want to share my joy with somebody in the program who can celebrate this with me. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate you. Michelle R.
I just want to say that this whole process of going through this workshop, I have been in food recovery for 20 years, and I have never really trusted the 12 steps. And this EDA and this workshop has helped me so much. And a perfect example was Thanksgiving. I have always been a nervous wreck at Thanksgiving about the food being around, about what I was going to eat. And that word abstinence, that was terrible for me, trauma survivor. And this Thanksgiving, I ate in a balanced way. I ate a small portion of dessert, didn't want more, was present to my family for the first Thanksgiving and as long as I can remember because I wasn't nervous. And I read my big book or my green book or whatever you call it over and over again. And I am just, I can't say how grateful I am. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, and congratulations on your milestone. Go ahead, Kathy.
Thank you, Regina. Volunteers are selected prior to the start of each workshop. Next week, please consider joining us 10 to 15 minutes early to volunteer. Anonymity reminder. Please do not share who you've seen here or what others have shared here. 7th tradition. We have no dues or fees for this workshop. It is offered at no cost. However, EDA has expenses and donations are welcome. We hope you will consider a minimum donation of $14 for this 14-week workshop. To donate, go to the EDA website and select the Support tab. If you wish to, please join me in saying the we version of the Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
We hope you enjoyed today's workshop. More information about Eating Disorders Anonymous can be found at 4eda.org, the number 4eda.org. The handouts for this workshop can be found at edahopeforrecovery.com. We encourage you to check out one or more of the many EDA Zoom or in-person meetings. Many of us have found recovery from our eating disorders in these meetings and hope that you will too. Until next time.